Have you ever had a moment so painful that it splits your life into before and after? For me, that moment was walking into my own bedroom and finding my husband in bed with my sister. My name is Veronica. I'm 29. And up until that night, I thought I had a good life. Not perfect, sure, but solid. I had a job I cared about, a little house I worked hard to buy, and a husband, Mark, who I believed loved me more than anyone else ever could. And then there was my sister, Samantha, the wild one. She was 25, impulsive, the kind of girl who always seemed to take and take while others picked up the pieces. But she was my sister. And even when she got under my skin, I defended her. That's what sisters do, right? It was a Tuesday evening when everything changed. I'd been away for a short business trip, just 2 days, and decided to come home early to surprise Mark. I was actually excited, grinning like an idiot as I carried my suitcase up the driveway. I remember thinking how much I missed him, how I couldn't wait to curl up in our bed, in our space. The house was dark when I stepped inside. Quiet, too quiet. At first, I thought maybe he was asleep, but then I heard it, muffled voices, faint laughter drifting down from upstairs. Something in my gut twisted. Can't explain it, just that sixth sense you get when something's wrong. I crept up the stairs, each step heavier than the last. My hand was shaking as I pushed open the bedroom door. And there it was, the moment that split my life in half. Mark, my husband, and Samantha, my sister, in my bed. For a few seconds, I couldn't even process what I was seeing. My brain refused to believe it. My whole body went cold, like the blood had drained out of me. I gripped the doorframe so hard my knuckles ached just to keep from collapsing. Mark's face went pale. He jumped up, fumbling with his jeans, blurting out the words every guilty man seems to say. Veronica, wait, it's not what it looks like, but it was exactly what it looked like. And Samantha? She didn't even look ashamed. She leaned back against the pillows and smirked, like she had won some twisted game I didn't even know we were playing. That smirk told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a drunken mistake. She wanted me to find out. I felt something inside me crack. Not anger, not even grief at first. Just a hollow, bone-deep shock, like my entire world had been ripped out from under me. And in that moment, I thought the betrayal couldn't possibly get worse. But I had no idea. The real betrayal was still coming, from the people I trusted even more than him. The morning after I caught them, I felt like I was moving through a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Samantha's smirk, the way she looked so smug lying in my bed with my husband. My chest hurt like it was caving in. But more than anything, I needed answers. I needed support. So I drove to my parents' house. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel the whole way. In my head, I kept rehearsing how I'd tell them. I imagined my mom hugging me, telling me she'd make Samantha apologize, maybe even throwing Mark out of the family for good. That's what moms are supposed to do, right? Defend their daughters when they've been wronged. But when I sat down at the kitchen table and spilled everything, that's not what happened. My mom leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, and looked at me like I was overreacting. Veronica, she said flatly, men cheat. It happens. At least it's with someone we know. I froze. At first I thought I'd misheard her. What do you mean, at least it's with someone we know? Mom, it's my sister, I shouted, my voice breaking. But she just shrugged. Samantha didn't mean to hurt you. These things happen. You're too dramatic. I couldn't believe it. My mom wasn't angry at Samantha. She wasn't disgusted with Mark. She was defending them. And my dad, he just sat there silently, staring at his coffee like he wanted to disappear. Not once did he stand up for me. Finally, Samantha walked into the room. She had the audacity to look me in the eye and say, "It just happened, Veronica. You'll get over it. Get over it." I wanted to scream, to tear the whole house apart, but I couldn't even get words out. My throat was so tight it felt like I was choking. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just betrayed by my husband and my sister. I was betrayed by my own mother. and the people I thought would protect me, they were never going to be on my side. After that talk with my mom, I remember driving home in silence. My body felt numb, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight they ached. My own mother had basically told me to get over it. Like my entire world falling apart was some teenage breakup. When I got home, I half expected to find Mark gone. Maybe a note left behind, maybe some sign of guilt. But no, he was sitting on the couch like nothing had happened. Shoes off, remote in hand, watching TV, as if the entire universe hadn't just shifted. When he saw me, he muted the television and gave me this calm, almost patronizing look. "Veronica, we need to talk." I didn't want to talk. I wanted him gone. But he started anyway. "What happened with Samantha? It was a mistake. You're blowing this way out of proportion." My jaw dropped. A mistake? My sister in my bed, under my roof, with my husband. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. I told him to pack his things and leave. But Mark just leaned back on the couch, smug as ever, and said, "This is my house too. You don't get to kick me out just because you're upset." And that's when it hit me. He wasn't going anywhere. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. We became two strangers living under the same roof, circling each other like predators in a cage. He started sleeping on the couch, but the tension never left. At night, I'd hear the faint buzz of his phone. I'd hear him whispering in the kitchen at 2 in the morning. I didn't even need to check his messages to know who he was talking to. Samantha. One morning, I walked in and caught him mid-text. His lips curled into a smirk when a message came through. And I swear, my stomach dropped so hard, it felt like I'd been punched. I asked, "Still talking to her?" He didn't even look up, just muttered, "Don't start," like I was the problem. Meals were unbearable. We'd sit at the dining table in silence. The scrape of forks against plates the only sound. Sometimes his phone would buzz, and I'd see the corner of his mouth twitch into a grin. I would grip my fork so tight my knuckles turned white, fighting the urge to throw it at the wall. And then, as if things weren't already unbearable, my mom started calling. At first, I thought she was checking in on me. But no, every call was the same lecture. "You need to be forgiving, Veronica. Don't throw away your marriage over one mistake." One mistake? I wanted to scream. But it got worse. She invited Mark and Samantha over for family dinners, together. And when I refused to go, she had the audacity to say, "You're being immature. Stop acting jealous." Jealous. That word broke something inside me. I wasn't jealous. I was betrayed, humiliated, discarded. But no matter how loudly I tried to explain that, my family twisted it back onto me. I remember one night, lying in bed alone, while Mark snored on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was losing my grip on reality, like I was the villain in their story. And in the darkest hours, a question haunted me: how much more can they take from me before I completely shatter? Up until then, I thought the betrayal couldn't get any worse. I thought I had already hit rock bottom, but I was wrong. It was a Saturday morning when I stumbled across it. I was sorting through the usual pile of bills and junk mail, just trying to distract myself from the storm inside my head. Then, I noticed an envelope from a credit card company I didn't even recognize. At first, I thought it was one of those offers they send out, but then I saw Mark's name printed across the top. I opened it, and my heart nearly stopped. Over $7,000. That was the balance due. My hands started shaking as I scanned through the charges. A 3-night stay at a luxury hotel downtown. Dinner at a 5-star restaurant. Twice. Jewelry from a high-end store I couldn't even dream of affording. Designer clothes. Lingerie. None of it was for me. The room spun around me as the truth hit me like a truck. Not only had my husband been sleeping with my sister, but he'd been financing their little romance with our shared money, with my money. I felt nauseous. I couldn't even stand properly. I clutched the counter just to keep myself upright, the bill crumpling in my fist. But the anger came next. Hot, violent anger. I stormed into the living room, where Mark was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. I threw the bill at him and it landed right in his lap. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He glanced at the paper, then looked up at me with this infuriating calmness, like I was overreacting. "You're being dramatic again," he said flatly. I had to spend money to keep things quiet. Quiet. He said it like he was talking about paying a parking ticket, not betraying his wife in the most humiliating way possible. "Quiet?" I snapped. "You drained thousands of dollars on my sister, and you're calling it quiet?" Mark shrugged. "If you think about it, it's better this way. At least it's not some random woman. At least it's someone we know." My whole body went cold. My ears rang so loud I could barely hear. And then, with zero remorse, he said the words that nearly broke me. "If you had been a better wife, I wouldn't have needed Samantha." For a second, I forgot how to breathe. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. My vision blurred, and I had to grab the edge of the table just to keep from falling. The man I had loved, supported, and built a life with was not only cheating on me with my own sister, but now he was telling me it was my fault. I couldn't stay in that room with him. I grabbed the bill and drove straight to my parents' house. My hands were shaking the whole way, but in my head I told myself, this is it. This is the proof. This time they can't deny it. They can't defend him. They can't defend Samantha. I stormed into the kitchen, slammed the bill down in front of my mom, and shouted, Look at what he's doing. He's using our money to spoil Samantha." She picked up the paper, gave it the quickest glance, and then set it down like it was nothing. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "At least he's spending on family, Veronica. Stop making everything about you." I froze. The words didn't register at first. I just stood there staring at her, waiting for her to take it back, to laugh, to say she was joking. But she wasn't. "At least he's spending on family." It was like my brain short-circuited. My mother wasn't just dismissing my pain anymore. She was excusing it. She was excusing them. I felt something inside me break that day. A string I had been clinging to, desperate to hold everything together, finally snapped. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't dramatic or jealous or immature. I was surrounded by people who had decided my pain didn't matter, who had decided that my husband's betrayal and my sister's cruelty were acceptable, as long as it didn't inconvenience them. And in that moment, I stopped being the victim. Because when someone pushes you to your breaking point, when they strip away everything you thought you could rely on, the only thing left is anger. Pure, burning, focused anger. I walked out of that house without saying another word. My mom called after me, but I didn't even turn around, because in my head, something had shifted. For weeks, they'd been twisting the knife and watching me bleed. But now I was done bleeding. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to clarity. If they all thought I was weak, if they all thought I'd just roll over and get over it, then maybe it was time to show them exactly what happens when I stop crying and start fighting back. The night after my mom dismissed me, I sat in my car in the driveway for almost an hour. The house lights were on. Through the window, I could see Mark stretched out on the couch, scrolling on his phone, probably texting Samantha, probably laughing at me with her. I didn't cry this time. I didn't scream or punch the steering wheel like I had before. I just sat there, still, my whole body buzzing with something new. Focus. For weeks, I had been reacting to Mark, to Samantha, to my mom, to all of it. But sitting in that car, I realized something. The only way to survive this was to stop reacting and start acting. That was the night I made a decision. If they wanted to treat me like I was weak, like I was some pathetic obstacle in their little game, then fine, I'd let them think that. I'd keep my head down, stay quiet, even play the part of the broken wife. But secretly, I'd start building my escape, my revenge. The first thing I did was open a new bank account. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friend at work. Every paycheck that came in, I quietly moved a portion into that account. It wasn't much at first, but it was mine. Money Mark couldn't touch. Next, I started documenting everything. The credit card bills, the late-night texts I overheard, the times he disappeared and left the door unlocked. I even recorded a few of his cruel words when he blamed me for his cheating. Each piece of evidence went into a folder, hidden where he'd never find it. It felt empowering, like I was slowly gathering weapons for a war I hadn't announced yet. But I didn't stop there. I started smiling again. Not because I was happy, but because I wanted Mark to believe I was calming down. I laughed at his jokes when we were around other people. I even agreed to go to a family dinner where Samantha was present. It was excruciating. Sitting across from them while they exchanged those smug little glances. But I forced myself to endure it, because the calmer and more collected I looked, the less they suspected what I was doing. And behind that mask, I was learning, watching, planning. I learned that Mark had put both our names on certain debts, meaning if I wasn't careful, he could sink me financially along with him. I learned that Samantha had started showing off new jewelry and purses on social media, bragging about gifts without realizing everyone could see the dates lined up perfectly with the credit card charges. Piece by piece, the puzzle was coming together. The more I gathered, the more the fear inside me shrank. Don't get me wrong, it still hurt. Every single day was a reminder that my husband had chosen my sister, that my mom had chosen her too. But now, beneath the pain, I had something else, power. And power is addictive. One night, as I tucked away another document in my folder, I caught myself smiling, a real smile, because I finally knew how this story was going to end. Not with me broken, not with me begging them to treat me better. It was going to end with them watching their entire little scheme collapse, and I'd be the one holding the matches. The day it all came together started like any other. Mark was on the couch, half asleep with his phone in his hand. Samantha had posted a selfie that morning with a brand new gold necklace, captioned, "Some people are just born lucky." I laughed when I saw it, not because it was funny, but because I knew she had no idea what was coming. By then, my folder was thick with evidence. Bank statements, receipts, screenshots of Samantha's posts, even a voice recording of Mark saying, "If you had been a better wife, I wouldn't have needed her." Every vile thing he'd ever said to me was now a weapon in my arsenal, and I was ready to use it. The first step was legal. Quietly, I'd met with a lawyer weeks earlier. She was sharp, no nonsense, and the moment I slid that folder across her desk, her eyebrows shot up. "Veronica," she said, "you've got him cornered. He's not walking away clean from this." Together, we mapped out everything. Divorce filings, division of assets, proof of financial misconduct. My lawyer even showed me how the money he'd spent on Samantha could be classified as marital waste, meaning he'd be held responsible for it, not me. Step 2 was timing. I played my part perfectly for another 2 weeks, smiling, acting like maybe I was over it. I even let Mark think I was softening toward him. He grew cockier, more careless. Samantha got louder online, flaunting the trips and gifts. Exactly what I wanted. Then, one Friday evening, I set the trap. I invited my parents, Mark and Samantha, over for dinner. Yes, all of them in one place. My mom was thrilled, thinking it meant I was finally growing up and moving on. She even patted my hand on the phone and said, "I knew you'd forgive, eventually." Forgive? Sure. I cooked. I smiled. I played hostess. For an hour, I listened to Samantha brag about her new opportunities, and Mark make little digs at me, under his breath. My dad sat silently, like always, and my mom kept giving me that smug, "See, this isn't so bad" look. And then when dessert was on the table, I pulled out the folder. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "I wanted to share something with the family." The room went dead silent as I slid the evidence across the table. First the credit card bills, then the hotel receipts, then the screenshots of Samantha's posts, complete with timestamp. Mark's face drained of color. Samantha's jaw dropped. My mom opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I leaned back in my chair and said, "This is everything I've collected, and it's already in my lawyer's hands. The divorce papers will be filed Monday. Mark, you'll be paying for every dime you wasted. Samantha, I hope those necklaces were worth it, because soon everyone will know exactly how you got them." The silence was delicious. Mark tried to speak, stammering about how I was twisting things, but I cut him off. "Don't bother. I have recordings. I have receipts, and I'm done being your fool." For the first time in months, I felt taller, stronger, like the weight of all their lies was sliding off me. My mom tried to intervene, of course. "Veronica, this isn't necessary." I turned to her, calm but firm. "You made your choice, Mom. You chose to defend them, and now you can live with that. But I won't, not anymore. Samantha's face was red, her hands trembling. Mark was pale, sweating, silent, and I was finally free. That night, I walked out of that house, knowing I'd won. Not because I'd shouted the loudest or cried the hardest, but because I had outsmarted them. For the first time, they were the ones scrambling, and I was the one in control. Walking out of that dinner, folder in hand, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The storm that had been tearing me apart was suddenly quiet. Because for once, I wasn't the one scrambling to hold things together. Mark and Samantha were. And my mom, she could stew in the mess she'd chosen to defend. The days that followed were brutal. But in the best way possible, Mark tried to fight back at first. He sent long texts, called me at work, even showed up at my door, begging to talk things through. But my lawyer was airtight. Every message, every financial slip, every recording, I had him locked down. When the divorce went through, the judge looked at the evidence of marital waste and ruled that Mark would be solely responsible for the debt he'd racked up spoiling Samantha. $7,000 wasn't small change. And with interest and fees, it would follow him for years. Meanwhile, I walked away free, clean, and with enough in savings, thanks to my secret account, to start over without him. Samantha didn't get off easy, either. Word got around fast. You can't post pictures, flaunting gifts and trips, and then act surprised when people put the pieces together. Friends distanced themselves. Extended family whispered. At one point, I heard she even lost her job because of the drama spilling into the workplace. And my mom, she tried to patch things up, calling me with half-hearted apologies. You know, I just wanted peace in the family, Veronica, she said. Peace? There had never been peace. Only silence. Silence that protected everyone but me. So I told her the truth. I don't need a family that excuses betrayal. If blood is more important to you than loyalty, then you can keep them. I'll be fine without you. And for the first time, I meant it. The months after were hard. Don't get me wrong. Starting over alone wasn't easy. There were nights I sat in my tiny new apartment, surrounded by boxes, wondering if I'd made the right choice. But then I'd remind myself, I was free. Free from the lies, free from the manipulation, free from the constant weight of people who never valued me. And little by little, life got brighter. I found peace in the quiet. I reconnected with friends I'd pushed away. I even started traveling, on my own dime, with my own plans, without anyone stealing that from me. The best part, running into Mark months later, he looked smaller, tired, bitter. His life with Samantha wasn't the shiny fantasy they'd expected. They were drowning in debt, arguing in public, barely holding things together. And me, I just smiled, walked right past him, and didn't look back. Because here's the truth I learned. Sometimes family betrays you. Sometimes the people you trust most will twist the knife and expect you to forgive them. But you don't have to stay in the fire just because they tell you it's warm. I thought losing my husband, my sister, and my mom, all at once, would destroy me. But in the end, it set me free. And now when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see the broken woman they left behind. I see Veronica, stronger, smarter, and finally whole.